The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
There
All
we
right,
go.
now someone did actually hit it this time. Okay. All right, if you're watching right now,
not live.
pre-show banter. Are we live?
We are live.
We are live.
You're live.
Okay, so if you're watching right now, this is what we call pre-show banter. The webcast actually starts in 32 minutes, but I'm pretty sure we're going to talk about burnout at some point over the next 32 minutes. So it may be interesting. We show up early because you show up early. You show up early because we show up early. It's a vicious cycle, and I'm just letting you know that now, so that if you want to fast forward 32 minutes through the recording, you can do that. Or you can hang out with us if you're live, or you can just go ahead and watch whatever it is that we do for the next 32 minutes. Speaking of which, Corey, what are we talking about today?
We are talking about burnout, and I don't mean like revving up your car and then dumping the clutch and like generating tire smoke. What I mean is the feeling of exhaustion.
Well, I'm out.
That comes. Yeah, sorry.
I was here to talk about burning out in diesel trucks, which we call rolling coal in the Midwest.
Yeah, that was. I am going to do a talk about that, but I don't know if it's going to be on the BHIS webinars. I think it's going to be on the Summit Racing webinars, which is a different kind of target audience. So
Interesting.
In my Camaro back in the old days, I could drop it in. So if I put my clutch in fifth and dropped it back into fourth and dropped the clutch really fast, I could still burn out doing like 70 miles an hour. That was always fun.
wow. See, that is a good topic. We should talk about that sometime on a webcast.
Yeah, my Chevette did not have that kind of power.
This would be as good as the cereal talk if we did this, I'm pretty sure.
Talk on cereal.
I would have to bring in a lot of guest speakers because I generally drive cars that are not traction limited. But I mean, there's definitely some people out there I know that have like 1,000 horsepower Corvettes that would happy to, consult and provide tons of good slides and links and things for people.
Yeah. What's the fastest way to get through $1,200 worth of tires?
One of the things that's kind of disappointing about having like a Tesla, I'm one of the Tesla RDE or whatever, and it takes off very, very, very fast, and it doesn't burn out, it doesn't squeal, it doesn't do anything cool, it just accelerates to make you pee yourself.
So John, I saw a YouTube video of someone that hacked their Tesla to give it drift mode and burnout mode. So there's hope for you.
No, they actually nerfed that. That was actually, if you hit the Tesla symbol like 10, 15 times, it asks for a password. And I think it's called, a dynamo mode, where you can put it up on like these wheels to see how much horsepower it has. And you type that in and it removed all regulations to the motors. Once that was released publicly, they nerfed that really quickly.
Now you have to push the button 11 times.
Yeah, that's too bad. I would want to do burnouts in any car I owned, including electric cars, especially if it's just a computer telling me I can't do a burnout. If it's like a 90 horsepower Mini Cooper, I'm like, okay, I expect it. But
it might not let you burn out, but it will let you change the sound so when you put your signal light on, it farts instead of making the.
Now that's a feature I don't need.
They got rid of it. They took that feature away. I guess there was some safety thing with farting. I don't know.
I heard it caused global warming. So
yeah, that's it. It's the gas. It was the gas from the car that doesn't produce gas. It was too much.
It was methane. It's totally different.
Oh, jeez. We've gone off the rails here.
Really talk about that.
So the webinar is actually about some tips, tricks. I'm not a psychologist, I'm not a therapist, but I am here to acknowledge that burnout is a big problem in this industry, and that I think we can all band together and help each other out. And also I have some hot tips for how to not get burned out in the first place, as someone who has been burned out a lot. So.
Yeah, it's weird, Corey, but the webcast didn't start. We're still in pre-show banter.
I'm sorry.
It was a good rehersal, though. It's 11.
He's practicing.
It was teed up. Someone teed it up. It wasn't my fault. I just do what I'm told.
we only work here.
This is one of the ways that we do avoid burnout, is doing this, where we get together, we see each other, we laugh, we have a good time, and then we talk to 1,000 people. That's the part that's stressful. But this part here is just fun.
Yeah, if you're an introvert, don't join for this part. It's scary.
It's so much fun. We should do it for 24 hours, right, Jason?
Oh, too soon.
I could talk about how I was so burned out after that.
Version.
PTSD for sure.
I guarantee that was a burnout event for Jason and Deb and John.
It was. I had PTSD every time I live streamed after that. Like I couldn't see myself on the screen and I couldn't talk. I didn't do my job hunt live streams for like 2 or 3 weeks because I was like,
I didn't take any calls like this.
So was the concern that like it would like you'd be getting into this stream and then the stream would just never end? Like you'd be trapped in it, like you couldn't get out?
No, there's like this thing that happens because I started to see myself on the screen, but I was in the screen, but also in the moment, but also like not in the moment. And so it became like this disassociative thing when I would try to stream. I didn't feel like I was me in reality.
I just watched the movie, what is it, Doctor Strange, and that's kind of where his astral projection comes out of his body. That sounds like what you experienced.
For sure.
The next Doctor Strange, it's a superpower, right?
Yeah.
24 hours of up live streaming gives you superpowers.
It does not feel like we had superpowers afterwards.
No.
Whenever you talk about it in terms of it would never end, I think Jason, Devin, I know exactly what that feels like.
Yeah, live stream that never ends. Oh, I know what it's like.
Who's I doing?
I think you could break almost every rule that I said to avoid burnout on one 24-hour banter con.
Is that the first slide? Don't do this.
Oh yeah, there's a slide that says how to live, and it's basically everything we did during the pre-show banter con, and then it says don't do this.
Do that.
Yeah, you could also consider it 48 pre-show banters. Like if you wanted to.
Right. It's almost a year's worth in one day.
Yeah.
Somehow that makes it sound worse. I don't know.
So much worse.
Yeah.
I mean, we didn't have to do it. We chose to do it.
Oh, yeah. We're not victims.
I would have missed it for anything.
I kind of felt like that was foisted upon me. It was like, guess what, John? We're doing a 24-hour burn.
This is a good idea. As soon as Jason said it, you had to do it.
That is correct.
But it was for a good cause.
Part of the terms of his employment is that Jason does what he wants to do. It's kind of harsh.
Yeah.
Actually, that was like my second official week.
It
and I couldn't really turn it down. Like, yeah, I'll do it.
Jason, you need to do a webcast on how to get that kind of contract where John gives you whatever you want. I like your contract.
Oh, yeah. I negotiated for that. But he really was like, yeah, just come to BHIS, do whatever you want. And I was like, really?
Jason's like, oh yeah, that's actually in my contract. He's like, oh, what contract? That's just
there's no contract.
Also, Jason, you are still labeled as John Strand, just for the record.
That's fine.
He knows.
I'm glad someone's using it.
So when John talks on the phone, Jason, you're gonna have to ventriloquist mime your mouth. So.
Oh, darn.
My actual job description was, I think it's do good things for the Infosec community. Like that's my whole job description.
Your official title, though, internally is excitement creator. I saw.
Exciter.
Yeah, but he kind of gave that title to himself, though. So it's like Seinfeld. He named himself T-Bone. That never took. It hasn't took, Jason.
He gave it to himself.
I do think we should all have the ability to bestow titles upon ourselves.
Oh.
Hmm.
You don't?
I will forever be managing intern.
Senior intern.
Yeah.
There's a website that you can go to where you can assign yourself like a British royalty title.
Oh, nice.
I forget what it was called, but you can actually call yourself Lord whatever or whatever.
Yeah, and you pay.
Is that like the
higher
ordained
titles.
minister stuff? Is that like being an online ordained minister? You can do that. 'Cause I totally am. I'll marry somebody right here, right now. Let's do it.
But in order to get the true effect of that, though, like you have to get the title and then like force everyone to use it. So you like show up into a meeting, your name is set for like Lord Monopixel. And if anyone just calls you Monopixel, you like stop them. You're like, hold, please address me by my official title.
And then you have
from here on out, Noah, I'm going to start calling you Lord Monopixel.
For sure.
I like that because I think it's embarrassing enough for you.
You need to change your little hashtag title down there now. Sorry.
Yeah, hold. I'm working on it. Give me a second.
Don't end the webinar on accident when you do.
I can't at Lord Monopixel yet, so you're gonna have to fix it inside Discord.
Stand by.
And then as you conduct activities as the Lord, will apply like suffixes like the radiant or the depressed or whatever.
The loved. Yeah.
Also, John Strand, the owner of Black Hills Information Security, is on the phone, coming to us live from an airport in Seattle because we asked him.
Because he's trying to burn himself out doing it.
Seems apropos. Actually, whenever I heard we were doing a webcast on burnout, I was like, I wonder what that is. I could go join.
Yeah, I don't think John truly knows what burnout is, at least for himself. I think for others, he's like, it's something that happens to other people, but I'm immune, so.
So I always have to account for John's 2 hours behind me. So whenever he texts me, I'm like, well, what time is it for him? But sometimes it's at like 4:30 in the morning, my time. I'm like, what the? do you? And I
the
just
only time I
imagine
can get anything done. It is literally the only time I can get anything done.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, I'm in meetings all the time and webcasts.
Someone's got you on some webinar.
Bantering.
Yeah.
Bantering.
Okay.
So
All right.
I've got a theory, by the way. I've got a theory, though, about Dave Kennedy working out. I think that Dave Kennedy works out as much as he does because it's like the only place his like coworkers won't follow him.
I believe it.
Because let's go over to the gym and we can have this meeting while we're lifting weights. People are like, you know what, Dave? You got it. You go do that, man, and it's his safe space.
Yeah.
Dave lifts weights. I never could have, told or noticed up following his Twitter.
Dave Kennedy?
Yeah.
That's weird.
Interesting.
Ian, thanks for being here. Brian, thanks for being here. Maxwell, thanks for being here. Smithereens, thanks for being here. A lot of other people I see in the chat. Thanks for being here today. We are going to talk about burnout. This is pre-show banter. We got about 20 minutes before the webcast begins. We got a bunch of people here. I'm going to have them introduce themselves just so that way we're not just a bunch of faces. All right, Ben, go ahead. Where are you from? Introduce yourself. Just dox yourself completely.
Wait, Jason, I thought you were going to beatbox for this and let everyone freestyle.
Yeah, where is that? Yeah, here we go.
My name is Ben, and I'd like to say I hack things every day.
Oh, he's a killer.
Nothing to add. That was good.
Don't ever do that again.
I don't know where you go. I mean, you peaked, Corey.
We broke the internet. Sorry, Ralph. You can't break it this time.
That's a shame there's only 77 people here to hear that.
No, that's a gift.
It's in the recording.
Live in recording forever.
Yes.
Lives on forever.
All right, so Ben, who are you? Where are you from?
My name is Ben. I work here, I think, and I'm in Chicago.
Yeah.
Nice.
We get paid once a month at Black Hills, so you're never sure until the beginning of the whole next month. You're like, oh, thank God.
Day.
Mr. Fletcher, who are you? Where you come from?
I'm a tester at BHIS as well. I'm in Michigan, just about 45 minutes southeast of Flint.
Joe on the hand. Where you're from?
On the hand.
Don't forget to add the UP up above.
Here.
Okay. Oh yeah, sure, right there. I got some friends that live near there. Yeah.
A lot of friends.
He said Michigan, not Wisconsin.
Yeah.
Oh no, you go up to the UP. You go up to the Upers.
He's got one accent.
That's that.
Ashley, who are you? Where you come from?
I am Ashley. I work here as well. I also live in Chicago, but not in the same room as Ben or in the same building.
Very
large.
Close.
Yeah.
Is it a big town, Chicago? Is it pretty?
Is there other people there?
I mean,
For as big as it is, it's still pretty small.
Yeah. Kind of ostentatious where you have your own style of pizza, but that's fine.
It's very windy today.
that Chicago
They should
really
have
is a
name
windy
for the
city.
city, something based around that.
You know, and the funny part is I live right near O'Hare, so you can see all the planes lining up to land all the time. And when they crab, when they're like landing and you can see them like flip flopping, it's a little terrifying. It's someone on the ground.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So never fly into Chicago? Is that what you're saying?
No, never.
You won't have a
Go to
choice.
Wisconsin,
You will be
drive
flying
the
in
rest of the
Chicago
way.
no matter what you do.
Yeah. Yeah.
Steve, who are you? Where are you from?
Oh, I'm sorry. You must address me as Supreme Commander.
I'm sorry, it's not in your title line.
Yeah, if it's on the title line and it's not updated in Discord, it's not real yet.
All right, I'll make it a reality. Yeah, my name is Steve. I am also a tester at BHIS. Love to hack things and all that, and teach as well. So glad to be here. Talk about the things that I do to burn me out. Hopefully, Corey will cover.
I will.
Work 24 hours a day.
Netware in the chat just mentioned how I have dishwash phobia and hair dryer phobia. That is true. I hate the sounds of dishwashers and hair dryers. I posted that on Twitter yesterday. Just both of those make me want to just rip my eyes and ears off.
Is that why you guys don't
So what
use the
happens if you hear them both at the same time?
Oh.
No, I can confirm. I can confirm the Blanchards do not use their dishwasher ever. Ever. They always just wash all the dishes by hand.
You just buy new
paper
dishes,
plates.
right? Yeah, you just go buy new ones.
New plates? Or is it all plates?
No, we have like 10% of my income goes to new silverware plates and stuff.
Wow.
You know that using the dishwasher uses less water than washing by hand.
It does, yeah. It's
But
like a
I
fact.
don't like the noise. It's
That's
Okay,
the
you have no
noise.
problem, but you know there are silent dishwashers too.
Yeah.
He prefers the noise of making water.
There's a what?
You know what I hate about this entire conversation is I'm sitting here thinking, it's like, why does Jason hate the sound of the dishwasher? And now I'm thinking about it, I'm like, wait a minute. I might hate the sound of a dishwasher too. Like, it's mean,
That's why
it's
it's so
infecting, and like it's just going to destroy and tank Whirlpool's like stock or something eventually.
Whirlpool stock.
It's like this.
Well,
yeah.
and then
Sounds like a
sometimes you have
bad
the clanking.
dishwasher.
It's like making the clank, clank, clank,
Oh yeah.
clank. Yeah.
That's ominous.
Hey,
But then
Jason,
it's
can you
like the
beatbox a
cabinet of
dishwasher?
Oh,
Huh.
well, we wouldn't make him do that. We don't want to make him confront his phobias on live.
Well, no, I mean, the worst part of the dishwasher is when it's like, kill.
See, this is where paper plates
Fucking
come in.
dishwasher.
All right, I take it back.
Migrate.
Never ever run the dishwasher.
You never
Yeah,
come.
you might.
This is like a live.
You may
This is
have
like
a
a live
defective
version.
dishwasher.
May.
This is like a live version of Infosec Twitter. It's like, here's all the things we hate.
Steve, start working out. We can do it.
I pick
All
these
right,
up, I put them
moving
down.
CJ, who are you? Where do you come from?
Who did you say?
It's CJ's turn. Go, CJ.
Oh, sorry. I'm CJ Cox. I'm originally from Indianapolis, but I live in Denver proudly for like 40 years or something.
The Brickyard, baby.
That was
Lord Monopixel, who are you? Where do you come from?
Yeah, so just a second, I'm generating my random address so I can tell you. Yeah, so my name is Lord Monopixel. I hail from 107 Enterprise Drive in Woodbine, Iowa. The zip code for that is 51579. Should you want to send me mail, it will not work because I don't live there.
What horrible crimes did you commit to be
I like
given the
that- I like that
lordship
you
of
think-
Iowa?
I know you.
It's adorable. It's absolutely adorable how he thinks people care. That's great.
Yeah.
I didn't realize I could post like my wish list from Amazon to the Discord chat and maybe people will send me stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, no. In that case, if you're actually going to send me legitimate gifts, I have a PO box set up just for that.
Dale, what part of the world do you come from?
I come from the northern side of the 49th parallel. If you want to send me a letter, you can just put my name on it and say Canada, and it'll get to me.
Just Canada.
To Canada from USA.
Well, I think you have to add his name too, but
Yeah, just the name and country.
They know him.
Just
Just
name
draw
and
a
country.
picture of him.
Just jump pitch.
Michael Allen, who are you? Where do you come from?
I'm Michael Allen. I'm a tester at BHIS, and I'm not going to talk about where I'm from, but because I don't want to do that in front of the entire internet. But I'm here to talk about burnout instead, and talk about that much more personal topic in front of the entire internet.
Absolutely.
The best part is we don't see. Go ahead, John. Sorry.
I was going to say Michael's been working with us for a while, and I still don't know where he lives. He's like Batman. It's amazing.
He has a cabin, several cabins maybe. Who knows?
Your
where.
IP address says Slovakia. Is that true?
It might be true. I can neither confirm nor deny.
The best part is Michael's so good at avoiding burnout, you've never seen him before.
Ryan, where are you from, sir? What do you do here?
I'm from Maine, but I'm in Florida.
Right.
And I edit podcasts and do streaming related things.
And take pictures of cars.
And I take pictures of cars.
And put them on your wall.
Yes, I took that photo.
Do you take pictures of cars doing burnouts?
Sometimes.
All right, and if you're here early, we're doing pre-show banter right now, just introducing ourselves. In case you've never been to a Black Hills Information Security webcast before, and you're like, why are you here early? Normally, I just listen to silence for like the next 10 minutes, and then finally someone comes on and says, thank you so much for being on the webcast today. We have Corey Ham with us, who's going to talk about burnout.
What is this, the first tee? Are we teeing somebody off at the golf range? You sound like one of the golf casters.
Very good.
All right, Ralph, who are you? Where do you come from?
I am my name is Ralph May. I am the resident Florida man. I actually have a full-time job as a gator hunter. I part-time moonlight pen testing. And yeah, my favorite color is blue. And I kind of like long walks on the beach if there's gators nearby.
Do you like pina coladas?
Long walks in the Everglades.
Yeah. Long walks in the Everglades.
All right, Deb, who are you? Where do you come from?
I'm Deb Wigley. Originally, I am from Indiana, CJ represent, but I've been in Maryland for 23 years, so I guess I'm from here. Also, I'd like to ask Michael Allen, I remember one time you saying that you were surprised that people watch the pre-show, and now you're part of it, and people are watching you. How do you feel? How do you feel about it?
I'm still surprised that people watch the pre-show.
Me too.
Me too.
All right. Is there anyone else besides Cassie?
Oh, God.
You didn't ask John.
Oh, John, where are you from?
Yeah, John.
My name is John Strand. I'm the one that put this shit show together with my wife back in 2008. And where I'm from is pretty easy. People can find me. I live out of Deadwood, South Dakota, and you can all come visit me at Wild West Hacking Fest. I'm here for this webcast just because it is a really important topic. I've been seeing a lot of people get more and more burnt out on the Twitters. As I mentioned earlier, I think everybody has varying levels of success and different techniques for dealing with it. And I think to get through, you have to use multiple techniques. So the more you learn from other people, the more effective you're going to be.
And thanks for putting this whole show together so that we can.
It's pre-show. It's pre-show.
It sounded like a good idea at the time.
We can do PG-13 level testing.
We get one. Yeah, we get one swear. Jason, don't worry about the one nip that we get.
Everyone's just like, well, John can do it, but we can't.
Yeah. The thing is that since we're going to YouTube now, we have to keep it clean so that way we can monetize it because
we turned off all
monetization.
I don't think monetizing it was ever in the pipeline.
We had monetizing turned on for like 3 months to see if we got like better search results. The answer was no, so we turned it off.
Yeah, it didn't work. I still think it would be funny if that's the line. Like, oh my God, this guy on this Black Hills Information Security webcast said the S word. That's it. Shut their channel down. This is a family platform at Google.
All right, and I wanted to go, so I'm Jason Blanchard, I'm the Content Community Director of Black Hills, and I come from Baltimore. But I wanted Cassie to go last because Cassie had a huge project this week, a huge life-changing event this week. I'm not going to get into all the details, but you sent our zine off to print yesterday. So Cassie, tell us who you are, what you do here.
I'm Cassie. I'm the content manager for Black Hills. I work with Jason and Deb in Maryland. I'm glad that you're putting me on the spot like this because I was going to say that if I don't talk a lot, it's because I'm quite introverted and I consider this exposure therapy.
This is burning you out right now, isn't it?
Yeah, totally.
But yeah, we sent the zine off this week, the second issue. It's been very exciting. That's the main thing I was brought on to work on. And I'm buying a house tomorrow, so it has been quite a week.
Wow, double congratulations. That's awesome.
Yeah.
And you work with two extroverts too. I think that's really funny.
So we're going to drop a link to the zine to be able to sign up for it. If you are in the United States, we'll mail it to you for free. If you've already signed up for it before, then we're going to keep mailing them to you the rest of 2002 until you either move or say, please stop. But at the end of the year, we'll ask you if you want us to keep sending them to you in 2023. So with that said, if we can drop the link in there, we're going to spend the next couple of minutes just talking about nothing of any consequence as we get ready for Corey to get the presentation. Then a lot of us are going to come back on and do just kind of you want to engage the audience, Corey? You want us to talk about things? We're going to talk about our own burnout. I'm going to talk about how you can always tell how burned out I am by how long my neck beard is. So right now it's getting there.
Yeah, everyone has a different level of handling that they can do, and also everyone has different coping strategies. So I think it's very interesting to hear different people's perspective, and also, maybe some audience members, we can do like live Dr. Phil. Like, you are not the father.
We are not doctors. We got to put that in.
Yeah, well, neither is Dr. Phil.
So we'll just be like live Phil.
I mean, Dr. Phil has this, he has like a PhD in history studies or something. I don't know. He's not like a real doctor. Whatever the doctor version of disbarred, it happened years ago.
I don't know about you, but I got my doctorate on the internet. I paid for it. So
yeah, you can get it right next to like the lordship title on that same site that I got my lordship title.
Can I also buy a star or have a star named after me? Can I buy a star? Is that possible?
Yeah. Or I'll sell you a 1 foot by 1 foot chunk of space, like of real estate on the moon, if you'd like.
Check it out. I have a star.
Like that means something.
Oh, Steve's got a star.
Yeah, my wife bought this for me, so I'm named in the heavens.
I don't want to know what that name is. Jason,
have you ever considered that, like, should we find like intelligent life somewhere? Like, what if we find it on one of those like sold stars with a name on it, and the aliens come back and they're like, wait, you named our entire solar system head
Steve.
Well, what did they name Earth? It's probably
named it Lord
like
Monopixel.
15 Alpha or whatever. So
yeah.
I come from Barosh.
I hail from the system of Steve.
Jason, when are the Rekka hoodies coming out?
So the Rekka hoodies, the one I'm wearing,
he's
is
just
the
teasing
prototype.
it over here.
This is actually the softest, nicest. Like the Black Hills hoodie
You know
is fantastic.
Is it bulletproof?
No, the Black Hills hoodie is bulletproof, but the Rekka hoodie is very, very comfortable. And we had it like specially designed so that way we could go across. It's not easy to print across the zipper like this, the way that it is. So we had to get some special printing. We ended up with a really nice hoodie to be able to do this. And they come out at the end of the month.
So soon.
Yes. Yeah, they were printed this week. Next week, they're going to be mailed to South Dakota. It is not easy to get anything to South Dakota. It's just for some reason, just getting things to South Dakota. And then we mail them from South Dakota all over the world. So
it's very hard to get good testers to South Dakota too. We do have a few, but it's hard to get them there.
No, I don't think we got any to South Dakota. I think we had to home grow them.
So if you're a tester and you're in South Dakota, sorry.
We grew you. We grew you there. That's.
Speaking of
you
which,
are a web pen tester. If you're a web pen tester in South Dakota or otherwise, you should really shoot me an email and say hi.
Please do.
Yes, we are looking for 3 web app pen testers right now. If you send an email to jobs@blackhillsinfosec.com, that gets the whole thing started. And so if you send an email to jobs@blackhillsinfosec.com, we're looking for 3 web app pen testers.
We don't silently judge your domains at all. If you come from Hotmail, we're not like, trash. Sorry, what?
Actually, we find that kind of cool and retro in a hipster sort of way, like an InfoSec hipster, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, my AOL address is totally new.
Yeah, Steve still uses AOL. It's
I had the other Hotmail email, the HOTMALE.
It's a different domain. Yeah.
I crossed the line earlier with the S word. Oh,
I thought I knew you from somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah. What was your username back then? But yeah, I probably.
All right, everybody, moving on. So we got 2 minutes here, 2 minutes before the webcast begins. If you're here early, thanks for being here early. If you're here to learn about burnout, we're going to do the best we can to talk about it, and then we're going to come back on. If you have questions at any time, feel free to ask them in Discord. You check Discord a lot more. That's why the rest of us are here. Corey's really the one presenting. The rest of us are here to interact with you. So Corey, you want this to be an interactive thing today? You want people to ask questions? You want people to say what works for them, that kind of stuff?
Absolutely. I think towards the end when we start the roundtable, that's when if you do have specific, like if you'd like me or others to address your question, you should hold it till then. But this is a ongoing thing and it's an ongoing discussion and it will hopefully continue. I have lofty goals of having maybe a burnout channel or something like that in the Discord where we just talk about like what I would really like is to have like a pseudo anonymous, like when you drop into that channel, it just masks your username so no one can see who anyone else is. And then you can just like bitch and complain about whatever you want.
Well, then how do I ban you?
Well, you can still ban, but it doesn't tell you who they are, right? So I can go in there and be like,
You don't know who you're banning.
Oh no, this guy just dropped in. His name is Lord Polypixel. Seems suspect to me.
Don't know who that is.
All right, everybody, it's 1 o'clock. I would like everyone who's not going to speak, which is not Corey. John, I want you to stick around because I'd like you to kick this off first today. So John is coming from us live from a Seattle airport where he is currently on the phone. So it's going to be me and Corey. And Corey, let's go ahead and bring up your slides. So Corey, you are the presenter, so bring up your slides. And then I can see them. I can confirm that they're there. I'm going to go off camera. Thank you so much for being on this Black Hills Information Security webcast. If you ever need a pen test, Red Team, Threat Hunt, Active SOC, or anything like that, you know where to find us. John, I'm going to turn it over to you, and then you turn it over to Corey.
Absolutely. All right, so thank you so much. So once again, I guess I'm coming at you all live from gate A5. I'm pacing down the concourse of the A terminal in Seattle. So I guess, Dale, you can lean out your window and wave and say hi, and I'll do likewise. So InfoSec burnout is a problem in the industry and has been for quite some time. And I want to set a little bit of the stage of kind of where we came from, where we are, and kind of where we need to be. First thing is, if you look at like conferences like DEF CON and some of the old days when we were first kicking up this entire industry, we were jackasses to each other. We weren't kind. We were incredibly insecure, and we lashed out at other people. And it was like a game to identify the shortcomings of others and really kind of tear each other down. And I've talked about this in a ton of webcasts. And there was actually a concerted effort over time to try to fix this in the industry by a number of people. And I think that things got better, right? I think that things are better. I'm not saying that they're great. Hell, I'm not even saying that they're good, but they're better than where they were. And there's other people that I think started talking about InfoSec burnout. And one of the first ones that I know of was Jack Daniel. He's on Security Weekly. And he was one of the first people that I saw at a conference that actually stood up and said, this is something, and it is real. It is, in fact, a thing, and we need to look into it. Because InfoSec burnout, when we're looking at the symptoms of it, I think the symptoms are catastrophic. We've lost some amazing people in the industry who have died at their own hands. We have a lot of amazing talent that gets burnt out and just kind of gets into a pattern of mediocrity at work. And I think that one of the key things that I will say before I hand it over to Corey is we have to stop judging each other on our failures. I know far too many people in the industry that will point out as soon as they introduce me to somebody, like, oh, there's someone over there. Oh, well, one time he crashed an entire network, or he got this one exploit wrong, or whatever. And we tend to judge each other on our failures, and that needs to stop. But more insidious than that is we tend to judge ourselves on our failures. And there's a number of us in this industry that have done amazing things, that have done great things across the board. And still to this day, when I have conversations with them, they talk about their failures and how they screwed up and what mistakes that they made, whether it be in the industry or whether it be in their life. And what I would like to ask before I have to jump and literally get on an airplane here is please stop judging other people on their failures. Please stop judging yourself on your failures. And if we can kind of do that, we can kind of support each other and we can allow ourselves to kind of forgive ourselves. I think that that's going to help a lot in the Infosec burnout realm. So Corey, are you ready, sir?
I am ready. Thanks for the intro, John. I definitely agree. I will cover a lot of those things. So thanks.
All right. And with that, folks, I have to jump off. Thank you so much for running this, and the BHIS team is here. Please interact with Discord and what resources that work for you all. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Corey and the rest of the team. Thank you so much, everybody.
All right. Thanks, John. So, how to burn out in InfoSec and what to do next. This is, obviously not a goal. The goal of this is not to teach you how to burn out. I think, unfortunately, all of us kind of know how to do that already on our own. But I will cover what to do next, because I think I've struggled with this. I think everyone I know that I would respect as a hacker has struggled with this. And even outside of hacking, it's a industry problem that we've seen bubble up, especially this year and last year. So obviously, I think other industries have other problems. I will speak mostly to InfoSec, but so let's get started with my agenda. So first, I'm just going to introduce, obviously, that's where we are now. Then I'm going to cover how to burn out, and sarcastically. And then I'm going to talk about what burnout is, some early warning signs, how to confront the problem. And then we're going to kind of finish with all of the tips that I could come up with talking to other people and personally to avoid burnout. And then there's some other people's perspective that I want to capture, like Michael's on, and everyone has a unique story, I think, and it is an incredibly personal thing. So I definitely appreciate anyone that's willing to share it publicly. And then I do want to have sort of a discussion with the audience. I want to have a, open and aware discussion of what these issues are, how they cause legitimate, real problems, and how we can potentially move forward and have a conversation. So please stick around. Who am I? So my name is Corey Ham. I'm a tester at BHIS. I have been a consultant, client-facing tester since 2013. So coming up on, I'm on 9 years now. That's a lot of pen test reports. I would consider myself an extroverted introvert. I am kind of a person that is fine being in the public light, fine being in the spotlight, but I do need to recharge on, after I need my alone time. So if you want to hit me up or whatever, I'm Cham423 on most things, including the Black Hills Discord, which is probably the best place to talk to me. I don't check LinkedIn ever. Disclaimer. So I want to start with this. I am a professional hacker. I am not a doctor. I'm not a therapist. I'm not a psychologist. These opinions are mine and those around me's. These are not backed up by professional research. I'm not a psychologist. I don't have a PhD. If you are legitimately concerned for your help or your health or someone else's health, like if you are having suicidal thoughts, substance abuse issues, things like that, this presentation is not really for you. This is for people that are sort of in general in control of how their actions play out and how their life is. There are many great resources for you if that is the case, if that's the situation you're in. But I don't want I don't want to downplay anything. Truthfully, there are problems that are too big for us to solve on our own, and that's totally fine. So here's how to live, right? We're cool hackers. These are some tips. If you want to be a successful hacker, if you want to be a successful defender, here's how to succeed in InfoSec and how to, really live. So you can sleep when you're dead, right? Like sleep is super overrated. It's wasted time. It's completely useless. Like you could just stay up all night, keep hacking, keep defending, keep researching. You don't really need to sleep. You can just drink coffee, whatever. Don't ask for help. Like John said, you don't want to look stupid. You don't want to look like you don't know what you're doing. So you should probably just, do it on your own. Go at it on your own. Prove yourself. Prove that you're really amazing and that, everyone should respect you. Make sure you also procrastinate. So, if you could do it now, you could also just do something else now, right? You could probably just do it later. You could probably just, you can get to it, right? Future you can solve that problem. You don't have to worry about it right now. You should check Twitter a lot. There's lots of stuff on there. There's like feeds of threats coming in, CVEs, hot drops on GitHub. There's other people's opinions. Those are really valuable, right? Like what if, you need that validation of other people and you need to make sure that, you're better than other people. Make sure you always say yes to everything. So when offered a project or when offered an opportunity that might be potentially stressful, always say yes to it because, you might, miss out. You might not be able to, it might prove to be a mistake to say yes or say no. So always say yes. Don't go outside, right? We're hackers, we're basement dwellers, we're, security professionals. We hide in our basements with 5 screens. We don't like sunlight, it burns our skin, etc. Eat whatever you want, really, whatever you can find. Just, DoorDash, just whatever you got to do. Just get something to your door. Doesn't matter what it is. Doesn't matter how you got it or if it's healthy. Deal with that later. Always keep those notifications on, right? You could miss something. There's a possibility and that fear of missing out. What if you miss an email at 10 p.m. at night that you really needed to respond to? So always keep those notifications on. And also, use your work computer for everything, right? So like log into your personal accounts and make sure that you're just always on your work computer. So then you're always feeling like, if there was something work related, you could do it right now. And also start new projects before you finish your old projects. Like there's always that amazing feeling of starting that new project, how fun it is, how, it's like, a new thing, complete clean slate. Don't worry about those old projects. Just let them pile up. It's not, it's whatever. Plus that kind of goes hand in hand with the procrastination. Also, set extremely high expectations for yourself, right? Like we're all just assume that you're the best at everything. Try to be. Always expect yourself to have no mistakes, no failures like that. That's, other people fail, you don't. Be a perfectionist. And also don't take vacation. Like, why would you, when you're working, you shouldn't be not working. Like other people don't take vacation, so you shouldn't either, right? So, don't do that. So not really. All of that was sarcastic. Don't do any of that. This is honestly some of the most common ways I think people get burned out is for not respecting all these things and more, right? This isn't just one person's, this is just the things I could come up with that I think are easy behaviors to fall into that aren't, they aren't actually helpful. They aren't productive. So with that said, let's cover the topic at hand, which
yeah, a lot of people are kind of upset. They feel like your hacker skills have been used mostly on reconnaissance against them personally. They wonder how you got in.
Yeah, I will say I did survey some people to see what behaviors they might feel are reflective of their.
A lot of resonation with this thing, it seems like. So good job.
So if any of those things resonate with you, I will now explain maybe why they could potentially be having negative impacts. So what is burnout? What is it actually, right? So not to be the stereotypical presenter that gives the Merriam-Webster definition of it, but burnout is physical or emotional exhaustion, especially as a result of long-term stress or dissipation. Dissipation just means like living badly, meaning like I'm not taking care of myself. It's kind of that feeling like I'm not doing it right, but I don't really know what I can change. So that exhaustion is key, and that's kind of, we'll talk about different metrics that you can measure against yourself to see what that is, but the exhaustion is kind of the biggest, most obvious symptom. Burnout's not unique to InfoSec. Obviously, nursing, things like that can lead to insane burnout. It's even worse potentially in those industries because there is an external demand. There's an external sort of stimulus to keep you going, which is sort of true in InfoSec, but not as much as potential other industries. You know, no one is dying on a table while we take a break. The InfoSec industry does have unique challenges though. Specifically, I think InfoSec has a lot of stimulation, there's always a new shiny object to chase. There's always a new vulnerability to research, a new Windows abuse to find, a new alert to build, or whatever. And I think it is pretty much self-driven. I don't think a lot of InfoSec managers and companies are pushing burnout. That is, I think, a lot of our faults to be expecting this of ourselves and sort of creating this culture of, you know, just try harder, right? Like just burn yourself out to get the thing. And everyone's experience is unique with burnout. So I do want to say, like, a lot of this presentation is based on my and my friends' experiences, but everyone's experiences is unique. Everyone is different. Everyone has a different level of feeling, you know, like they're burned out. So that kind of leads me into baseline yourself. We talk about baselining all the time, right? We were like, oh yeah, you got to baseline your network. You got to, you know, make sure that you know what alerts are normal and what alerts are really scary. Let's do that for ourselves. So, you know, some potential questions are, what is your normal level of motivation? Everyone's different. Some people are like John Strand. They just work, you know, 80 hours a week for their whole lives, and it doesn't seem to bother them. Other people like me or others that I'm close with, I can't imagine doing that. I can't imagine having that level of motivation. Everyone has that different level, and you have to know what yours is. If your normal level of motivation is a 30-hour work week, you know, you might be pushing a lot to push to that, whatever your goal is, whatever you think is appropriate. But if your goal is an 80-hour work week, you're going to be fine, and you should kind of, you know, potentially dial your motivation back and put it into other areas. Did you always hate Mondays? So some people just don't like work, and that's fine. That is totally fair. Personally, I like work. I don't dread Mondays. On Monday, I think of it as a new opportunity to solve new unique challenges and have fun doing it, hopefully. But if you always hated Mondays, then don't worry about hating Mondays. If you never hated Mondays and you start hating Mondays, that's probably an indicator. And are you struggling with reasonable deadlines? Some people do have trouble with deadlines, and that's fine. Other people have no problem with deadlines, and so if they start struggling, that might tell them something. And so, you know, once you have, and it's just about being introspective. It's about taking some time, maybe at the end of the day, at the end of the week, maybe at the beginning of the day, whenever it works for you, to kind of baseline yourself and say, how do I feel? Do I feel like I'm burned out starting this week? If so, I should probably do things differently this week to try to avoid that. Or if it's a post-mortem, so to speak, how did I get to this point, and where is my norm? What should I be pushing back to? So some early warning signs that kind of, you know, led from the last slide. A significant drop in motivation. We talked about the exhaustion. If you just can't, if you are, you know, struggling to even log on, if you're avoiding your office or your computer or whatever, and you're just kind of, you cannot continue. You cannot, like, you can't meet that deadline. You feel like that complete exhaustion of just, I don't want to work. Also, if you're dreading work, you know, I spoke to Deb before the presentation. She said, you know, in a previous job, she got to the point where her whole Sunday was ruined by just the idea of working on Monday. That is I think an early warning sign, or maybe even a late warning sign of a symptom of burnout. So, you know, work is work. I'm not saying that, you know, work is everything in life, and it's not. However, I don't think it's something that we should dread. I don't think work is something that we should feel a feeling that, oh, I really don't want to do that. I really hate that. Obviously, this is it is a somewhat privileged perspective to say that, we shouldn't have to dread work, but I do think that long term, it will lead to burnout if you dread work. So just be aware of that. For me, this is a big one, the feeling of kind of malaise or like a stress, just a constant feeling when you're not working. So after you do hopefully call it and stop working and go and do something else, you still feel that sort of pull. You still feel that sort of feeling that like, man, that's, I didn't leave that in a great state. I kind of I know I'm going to need to do that. Or especially being behind on deadlines, it's really hard for me to focus and have a relaxed weekend when I know that I'm late on a report or I'm late on a client engagement or whatever. It's hard to sort of let that stress dissipate. And I think it builds to a level where it's just permeating everything. And that's where you need, that's a definite early warning sign. And then the last one is personal. This is sort of depends on your baseline, but for me, avoiding social interaction is a sign that I'm getting burned out. If I'm sort of avoiding, I don't want to talk to people. I don't, talking to people distracts me. It's stressful. That's not normal for me. I generally like interacting with other people, but this depends on your baseline. If you're kind of an introvert and you generally stay out of things, then maybe this isn't a good indicator or warning for you. But if you're normally a social person and you stop being social, that's probably an early warning sign. So let's say you got to the point, you're burned out. You can say with 100% certainty that you are burned out. The first step, assess the severity of the situation. Can you continue? Can you deliver that report that's due? Can you finish that thing or whatever? If you can, ask for help and tell people how severe it is. If you can't, that is sort of a unique scenario. I will say that's where something like professional help or other things could play into it. But no matter what, you should reach the second step of asking for help. It might be your project manager. It might be your direct manager. It might be just a friend. It might be your spouse or someone that you trust. Ask them for help, because the truth is, even if it's just listening to you, it will help. And make sure you tell them how severe it is, especially when you're talking to your manager, your project manager, people that are directly responsible for things that are in your job or your life. Tell them how severe it is. Tell your manager, I don't think I can deliver my project on time because I'm too burned out to be able to. Or tell your direct manager, I feel like I want to quit my job because of this severity. That will give people an idea and allow them to help you, because what you don't want to do is downplay the level to which you're burned out and then have it continue. Because if you just say, haha, I just need to go take a chill weekend, then you're going to be back at it on Monday, and weekends aren't that long. So make sure you communicate with the other person and be honest and open and say, this is bad. Or if it's not bad, great. Tell them it's not bad and that you just need to vent. And then change something. So if you can, and this is lucky if you can, take a break first, whether that's just taking a 30-minute walk around your neighborhood or whatever, or just walking away from the computer. Just take a minute to think about just think about nothing if you can. And then try to change something. Avoid making a huge unsustainable change. So the classic one is, I want to quit. Well, that might be the best option. That might be long term, you might need to find a new job. However, it's kind of like fad diets. Doing that juice cleanse may not be the best decision, because that is a huge change. You're never going to be able to do that long term. It's not going to be sustainable. So if you can, look for easy targets. For example, don't participate in that weekly social happy hour meeting that is totally optional and that you don't need to go to. Maybe just take that hour or whatever and do something else, or don't work. Maybe look for projects you can put on the back burner. Talk to people and say like, hey, is this urgent? Do you have a deadline for this? When can I do it? How can I avoid it? Those easy targets will free you up that little bit of space that you need to sort of start your recovery process, and then recover. And I will say recovery, at least in my experience and a lot of people that I've talked to, it takes about twice as long to recover from burnout as it does to get burned out. So if you spent 6 months getting burned out, it's probably going to be a year of full recovery to get to the point where you feel like you're back to your baseline. And that's totally, that's fine. I think we all sort of acknowledge that, if people who are publishing to GitHub every single day and pushing amazing research, I think we all sort of have that feeling of like, they can't do this forever, right? Maybe they do it in a sprint and they, they have this 3 months of amazing work and then they take a sabbatical for another month. Or maybe that's just they have a slower cadence now. But I think in general, watching people burn out, you know kind of the other shoe's going to drop and they're going to need that recovery time. So I think we all just as a community have to acknowledge that. And then now this is kind of the last sort of part of the presentation, which is avoiding burnout. So here are my sort of tips, and you'll notice that these are perfectly matched to the first slide where I was jokingly saying, here's how you should live. So I think this is me personally. These are based on my baseline, my what I have observed, things that have a big impact on my mental health. Respect sleep or it will bite you. I think sleep, you don't have to like it, but you have to respect it. You can go probably about 3 days with lack of sleep, and then you are going to be in deep trouble. Whether it is an actual falling asleep at the keyboard scenario, or if it is, your immune system's going to be not as great, so you're potentially getting sick, other things. There are knock-on effects. Also, you'll be more irritable. You'll have less short-term memory and things like that. There are definite effects to sleep deprivation that maybe you can push for a few days, but long-term, you absolutely have to respect sleep. And it will get you if you don't. Ask for help and help others. I definitely think this is one of the easiest things you can do. Put your ego aside and maybe consider yourself from someone else's perspective. We all want to help each other. We all want to, be there for each other. No one is like, oh, I want everyone else to perform perfectly and have no problem. So we shouldn't expect that for ourselves. Time management. This is like a whole presentation in and of itself, time management. But some basics are at least know how much time you're working. I use a time tracker that when I'm working, I am clocking up hours. And when it hits 8 hours, I start to think, what's my exit strategy? Or maybe it happens at 6 hours. But just knowing how much you're actually working is probably the first step, because if you don't realize it, you could be working 80-hour weeks and not even know. Or you could be working 20-hour weeks, and if you still feel burned out, then maybe that's a symptom of, another potential problem. Avoid social media on busy days or altogether. I don't use Twitter. I haven't ever used Twitter. Nothing against Twitter or any social media. It's great. It's a great source. It's great to connect to people, and it could even be the channel you use to reach out to people when you feel burnout. But social media is biased inherently. We don't publish, well, most people don't publish all their thoughts. It's a filtered subsection of people's thoughts and feelings, and that means that it's always going to be biased. We may compare ourselves to others and say, oh, they're always tweeting like everything's good and they're happy and they're always productive. In reality, that is not the case, I almost guarantee you. So social media in general can be sort of a multiplier effect for burnout, where you're looking at other people and you're like, well, they're not getting burned out. Why am I getting burned out? This isn't, is it just me? I think in general, avoiding social media, at least especially in the short term, can lead to sort of a feeling of calm and clarity that anyone would at least short term benefit from. So give it a shot. You can always come back. And as far as how to use social media, there's, set your filter words, set your mute words, set your no-no zones very carefully, and even consider using like a screen time. I only allow 30 minutes of Reddit a day. I would look at cat pictures for an hour if I could. Choose your commitments carefully, right? So when someone says, hey, can you help me with this? You should consider, how much time is this going to take? If it's a short term, oh, I just got to help you set this thing up or do this thing, no big deal. But if it's a long-term project you're potentially committing to, like, hey, can you be a maintainer on my GitHub project and respond to people's issues? That's a big commitment. That is potentially like a couple hours a week indefinitely. And that same thing should be applied to meetings. If you're going to commit to a meeting, commit to it for the series, right? It's, an hour a week forever is actually a lot of your time. Spend time outside or recharging. I like to be outside. There's science that backs up the fact that just being in green spaces is an amazing, like it's good for the human body just to be around natural things, even if it's just for 15 to 30 minutes a day. But recharging can be a personal thing. It can be watching TV with your spouse, or it can be playing with your cat, or giving your dog a big hug, or whatever recharges you. Spend time doing that during the workday. So take that 15 minutes to go, cuddle with your cat, or whatever you do. Have something that recharges you and indulge in that thing during the workday. Intentionally choose a diet that works for you. Diets are super specific to individual people. There are professionals that can help that. I do think that, like, for me personally, feeling like I'm eating good foods helps me to feel like I'm in a healthy state, and that helps with my burnout. But the most important part is just to be intentional. Choose whatever it is, choose it intentionally. Don't just pick whatever's laying around or whatever, you can see on the DoorDash app or whatever. Do not disturb mode is amazing. I highly recommend using it as much as you can. Some people, like Michael, will talk soon about what he does. Some people take it to different levels. I think he takes it to potentially an extreme that I really respect. I am less extreme about it, and I only pretty much do it when I'm trying to sleep. But turning off all the notifications, just quieting down the feeds is going to buy you some mental clarity, I think. And then compartmentalize your work. So try not to think about work outside of work. Don't let it take over your life. I know Infosec feels like it's the whole world, but the truth is that there is a huge world outside of Infosec that is always there and ready for you to participate in it. So compartmentalizing your job, being stressed about something on a Friday and still being able to put that on hold, to be able to sort of put that in a box and say, I'm going to come back to this, I'm going to deal with it later, but right now I need to be present and be focusing on whatever I'm doing that isn't work. Easier said than done, obviously, but I do think trying to be intentional with it and trying to sort of police yourself and say, I'm not going to think about work for the next 8 hours or whatever. Allow yourself closure on existing projects. So if you have a bunch of tools that you're writing or whatever, consider just saying, I'm going to take this off my to-do list, or I'm just going to say, like, I'm not doing this. I can't handle this right now. I can't do it, or I just don't have what I need to be able to. Allow yourself to close out those projects so you don't feel like you have this huge backlog of a million things you're never going to get to do. That can add stress. Be realistic about, what you expect. And that's the last thing on this slide is set realistic expectations for yourself. Like John said, we have to acknowledge that we will fail. Other people, we see them fail. We don't necessarily judge them. We shouldn't be judging them, and we shouldn't set expectations for ourselves that we'll never fail. We'll never get burned out. We're the most reliable person at the company, and we can't allow other people to see us in our weak spot. And for yourself, set realistic expectations. Is every tool you publish or is everything you do going to get amazing engagement, 1,000 GitHub stars and this and that? Maybe not. Maybe it's just, this is a cool thing you made and no one really cares about it, and that's fine. Just set that expectation to a lower level. The classic, if you set your expectations low enough, you'll never be disappointed. So consider lowering your expectations, especially for yourself. And then some last things just from me, take vacation before you actually feel like you need vacation. So just book a month, a week, whatever, every company's different. Take some time and schedule it regularly, whether you feel like you need it or not, even if you don't have any plans, even if you just sit around in your PJs for a week, it's still going to recharge you. So also find activities that recharge you if you don't have time. So I have my hobbies. I like to work on cars. I like to go mountain biking and go hiking and do things outside. Those things recharge me and make me feel better. But everyone's are personal. Gaming can be one. Watching TV, whatever your thing is, whatever it is that makes you kind of feel calm and recharges you. Cooking is a good one, whatever. Find that. If you can't find that, you're going to struggle because if you don't have anything that is kind of your recharge activity, then how are you going to recharge? If you are overwhelmed, seek monotony. So especially in Infosec, I think this is one of the most common ways of getting burned out, is that there is a fire hose that we all try to drink from. There is a feed, a threat intel feed, or a vulnerability feed that is always there and always has tons of amazing things we can learn and grow and do. But sometimes we should be seeking monotony, seeking things that we know how to do already, that we can do so that we feel like we're productive, even if it's just something silly. If you're bored, which is another sort of other side of the coin, seek new opportunities, seek additional ways. I do think boredom can lead to burnout. If you're just sitting there doing a menial task for 40 hours a week, you will feel burned out, even though you aren't overwhelmed. It's sort of the other side of things. So seek new opportunities. Seek, is there a training you could do? Could you learn a new skill? Could you pursue an additional, project at your company, or try to level up in some other way? If you are bored, which I think, a lot of us sort of look fondly on the idea of being bored, seek new opportunities, and don't compare yourself to others. Don't say, oh, well, John Strand is, he started a company, he's working like 80 hours a week, he wakes up at 3 a.m. and teaches a class for Europe. I don't even know how he does it. But don't compare yourself to him. Don't compare yourself to anyone. It's your problem. It's your solution. It is ultimately a personal thing. And we all have to do that as a culture. We all have to say, everyone is an individual. They have their own level of capability and motivation and how much stress they can handle. And we shouldn't compare. I think that goes with the social media stuff. Don't expect yourself to be as good as you perceive someone else to be, because the truth is they aren't as good as you perceive them to be, and they aren't as perfect. Like, it's hard to look at someone as a complex being that is, has struggles and has stress, because we don't see it. So just don't do it, basically. And then if you guys have ideas, if anyone has ideas of what, other things, other tips, please post them. But you don't have to take my word for it. Uh-oh, is my computer frozen? No, you don't have to take my word for it. That's from Reading Rainbow. But yeah, I have some other people. I think Michael's going to go first, actually, but I have some other people that are going to kind of run through their perspective, and I don't think Michael has slides. So I think we're just going to run through sort of his personal story. And Michael, I really appreciate you being willing to share this. I know it's potentially super hard to share, but I really appreciate it. So I'm going to hand it over to Michael, who's going to talk through kind of his strategy. I think the reason I picked Michael is Michael has one of the best work-life balances of anyone that I've ever met. He respects his boundaries extremely carefully, and I have a ton of respect for how he does things. So Michael, go ahead.
Thanks, Corey. Yeah, I really agree with so much of the stuff that you were saying there. And, I hadn't actually seen any of the slides for everybody who's watching. I had not seen Corey's presentation ahead of this. So that was all brand new to me, seeing that. And it was really amazing to me seeing the things that you said that matched up to my own experiences and stuff that I do personally to try and deal with burnout. So to start off with kind of how I ended up right here on this webcast right now is Corey sent out an email internally that suggested this webcast to our team, and in which he was pretty much saying everything he just said in the slides, that this is a real problem in the industry and something a lot of people are dealing with, and how can we provide a resource to kind of alleviate that suffering. And whenever I got that email, like Corey also just said, he mentioned that I have a lot of strategies. I don't know if I have a lot. I have several that I use to try and deal with burnout. And he kind of called me out as a good example in that email thread. And to be honest, I thought this was an awesome idea to begin with, and I wanted to respond to that email immediately. But my response was one that I wasn't actually comfortable sending out to the whole team, and I didn't actually end up responding to his email. And my response was going to be, it might appear that I have this great work-life balance and have a lot of good strategies, but this is something that I personally am still struggling with. And that's actually why I have the strategies that I do. I've been pen testing since 2014. So I've been doing this for several years now, and for many years before that, pretty much since roughly elementary school for me, I was hacking in one way or another, learning to program and things like that, or tricking friends with little phishing emails and things. So I've been at hacking for a while, and that's how I got into this job. I had learned in the past from people that I listened to and books that I'd read and stuff that if you get a job doing what you love, you'll never work a day in your life. What those things failed to mention was that if you start doing what you love for work, you're going to need to find another hobby. You're going to need to find some other way to relax, because at other jobs that I had before I got into pen testing, hacking was what I did for fun when I was slacking off at work, whether I was working in an IT department or somewhere else. I mean, I even had a job for a little while as a hang gliding instructor. And between classes, between me going out on sand dunes and teaching people to fly hang gliders, I was sitting in the back of our school, in the back of the hang gliding school, learning to program in Python on a little laptop, which is pretty unusual in that kind of environment. But I just say that to illustrate that that was really how I got, relaxed or kind of a release from work, was doing hacking related stuff. And I didn't transition to doing something else that alleviated work stress or anything once I got into pen testing as a career. I was always the person who, said yes to any project that came up. I put in long hours. I worked in my personal time. I did tons of training in my personal time after work, things like that. And it worked out well for me in the sense that I advanced quickly and I felt successful in my career. But I didn't realize, the toll it was taking on me until actually it was really too late. I'd been in it for several years and found myself really hating work. I found myself in a situation where I did not want to be spend any time at the computer outside of work at all, and where I would struggle to make progress on projects during the day. I'm in a way, I'm proud to say that I've never let it affect a deadline or something like that I've always powered through and got things done. But I also feel like that is a symptom of what causes burnout in the first place. That kind of the willingness to put up with the pain and also the kind of the perfectionism contributes to burnout in that way. So I'm still struggling with that on a pretty regular basis. I mean, BHIS is so much better than some of the other places that I've worked in terms of John and CJ and Heather and others on the team really care about our mental and emotional well-being, and if somebody needs a break, being willing to give them a break. But one of the things I was hesitant about coming on this webcast about is, it's just a hard thing to talk about, especially with people at work. It's kind of like, I think of it as the opposite of a job interview. You go to do a job interview and you want to put on your best face, put on that kind of a fake smile, maybe if you're struggling with burnout at that time. And I feel like this is kind of like the anti-job interview. If I feel like, what if I had come to John whenever I was first getting hired at BHIS and said, hey, I'm struggling with burnout, and I don't know that I want to continue in a pen testing career. I probably wouldn't, have this job that I currently have. But that was actually the truth. Is at the time that I started at BHIS about 3 years ago, I was really struggling with some pretty bad burnout at that time, and I haven't fully recovered at it, all the way till now. And so finding ways to cope has been part of my process of kind of healing and getting better from that. But it does, like Corey said, take a long time to fully get back to normal. So I'll just quickly go through some of the things that I do to strategize and try and deal with burnout before I hand it back over to others on the team who I know have some stuff to share too. Some of the things that I do specifically are, number one, I have 2 phones. I don't actually have cell phone service on my 2 phones. So if I need data on the second phone, I just turn on the hotspot on the first phone, because I'm kind of thrifty like that. I don't really want to pay for 2 phone bills, but I have a work phone and a personal phone, and I don't install any apps except for Signal on my personal phone. Other than that, I mean, it's text messages and phone calls only. And my work phone that has my email and my Teams and stuff like that on it, 5 p.m. it gets turned off. That's a big thing to me. Setting boundaries was so important in starting to help me feel better. 5 p.m. is when work is done, and nothing on the weekends. That phone stays turned off on the weekends. So I use automatic do not disturb rules on my personal phone so that I make sure I only get phone calls that I want after hours. And I mean, there's a flip side to that too. One thing I do is I try and be proactive to prevent off hours calls from customers, because customers are going to expect, if something's breaking things on their network, if I left a vulnerability scan running or something like that, that they're going to need to reach out to me. So I do everything I can to try and make sure they're not going to reach out to me after hours. I send an email and say, instead of saying this vulnerability scan is running overnight, I say this vulnerability scan is running overnight. If you have any problems on your network, just go ahead and unplug that device that it's running from. I'll fix it in the morning, or I'll fix it on Monday if it's over the weekend or something. I'm in terms of fixing our device, of course, not fixing their network. But I try and preempt anything that could possibly happen after hours and make sure I have those boundaries. Corey mentioned taking your vacation in advance. One thing I do is I go ahead and I pick out all the weeks that I'm going to take vacation early in the year, and I try and spread them evenly throughout the year. So once every 2 or 3 months, I take a week off, and I make sure that I take that week off. Even if I don't have any plans, I'm not going anywhere, or at least when I put in for the time off, I don't have any plans to go anywhere. I make sure that I take that time off and get that on the calendar. It was amazing to me learning how many hours of vacation time are not used by people, especially in the United States, every year. Many people, if they don't use their vacation time at work, they lose it after a certain point. And it just blew my mind that people are not using vacation time. So big advocate for using your vacation time. I also like to use training time the same way. So fortunately at BHIS, if I'm taking a class for a week, I don't have to do any project work for that week. So I try and use my training time every single year, take some kind of class, and that way I get a little bit of a break. It's something novel, something new. It's not the regular old, doing another project that week. So it's a little bit like a vacation. I mentioned with the phones, hard stop at 5 p.m. every day. I do a maximum of 8 hours of work per day. This is the kind of thing that I probably, it's not ideal to say in front of your boss, and that it's uncomfortable to say those kinds of things. But yeah, I'm not doing any more than 8 hours of work a day, because I got to set those boundaries for myself. So in my opinion, if you're doing a good job at your job, which most people who are burned out, they're burned out after they get done, doing a good job and excelling at their work. If you're that kind of employee and you're not able to get your work done in 8 hours and you have to spend personal time doing your job, it's not your fault. It's your employer's fault. And so that's the attitude that I take, and that's why I've got that hard stop there. And in addition to that, I also have a couple of hard breaks during the day. I take a 30-minute walk at some point during the day. I try to. That's a real struggle because we'll be on a video call. Like me and Corey have a red team going on right now. We'll be on a video call throughout the day, and there's some kind of task going on. My alarm goes off on my watch for me to get up and take a walk. And I hate to leave another tester there still working, and I'm about to get up and take a break, but it's something you've got to prioritize personal health and well-being. So I definitely recommend doing that. Get up out of your workspace to take your lunch break every day. And the last thing I wanted to touch on here is, all this stuff is not easy, especially in a work environment that's competitive. Even if you're in a healthy work environment, maybe there are others in your environment who are not burned out. They feel comfortable putting in time after work to do the extra work, or maybe they don't. Maybe they're hiding it, because most of the time I'm hiding it. I recommend, like, my attitude is I like to advocate for doing these things and setting boundaries and doing whatever you have to do to not get burned out. And I think doing that and letting others in your organization see that empowers other people to do it themselves. So even if you're somebody who's not experiencing burnout right now, I think creating that kind of culture in your work environment where somebody else sees you taking time off and sees you taking breaks and things like that, it just empowers other people to deal with those things and be healthy themselves. But with that, yeah, I'll hand it back over to you, Corey. I know we got some others who want to share some stuff as well.
Yeah, dude, thank you so much. Thanks for sharing. I really appreciate it. I mean, it's definitely interesting to hear your perspective on like so this kind of leads into the next person. If burnout, if you aren't allowed to cope for burnout, maybe it's the company's problem. So CJ, how does BHIS prevent how does BHIS or what, from your perspective as someone who's maybe not, I mean, you can speak to your personal side if you want, that's fine. But maybe from BHIS's perspective, why doesn't BHIS want people to work 80-hour weeks? Number one. And how do you create a culture and an environment where, people shouldn't be burning themselves out and they're allowed to take that sort of breather time if they need it? So.
Well, it's because we're enlightened and very saintly. No, that's not it.
We're not perfect.
No, we have burnout. People get burnout here with the best of intentions. This is just a fact of life. There's unlimited demands and you all have limited time. And I saw a tremendous number of comments going on about, I'm the IT expert, so I have to do this, or I'm trying to study in my spare time. And the question seems to be, how do I do it all? Well, you face up to the fact that you can't do it all. That's what causes burnout. It's not that there's too much to do, it's that you expect to get it all done. Or maybe it's your boss expects you to get it all done. I'm the shameless capitalist at BHIS. I think John hired me. That's part of one of the things is like, we have proudly sucking at capitalism, a shirt I dearly love. But somebody has to drive it. So I was like glaring at Michael and he says, I only work 40 hours a week. And the thing with Michael is he works a hard 40 hours a week, right? When I've worked, places I've worked, I may have done, 15, 20 hours of work in a week because it's just a weird environment, right? Not driven, very disconnected, very tough. So Michael works hard 40. And he's right, and there's exceptions, right? I typed into the Discord that you can work over that as an exception to a rule. It should not be the rule. That causes burnout. All this stuff is things in excess, and people are putting in all these different stressors. But I guess circle back to the big thing for us is why do we avoid burnout? Well, I look at business as a team thing. Like I come from a military background, right? And the military is an extreme example where mission sometimes overwrites the value of a team member. But in general, in the military, during normal times, during non-life-threatening times, your team is where your productivity comes from. I mean, most of us are not in capital-intensive things like manufacturing. Our resources are our people. Working your people is like working a machine until it breaks. Is that economical? From a management perspective, and this is what you need to talk to your bosses. We've got I sent you the business rules yesterday, right, Corey? And one of them is how to say no to your boss. Well, you can't say no to your boss. Well, you can and you can't, right? Bosses can ask you to do everything, and that's obviously not possible. How do you manage that? How do you educate your company? It's a little bit at a time. It's making the case for why this is important. And there were other people talking about like, this topic doesn't seem to be discussed. This is critical. Human functioning in an organization is critical. That some managers somehow shame it or throw it out or disregard it at their own peril. And for some of you out there in a bad organization, I saw people talking about like kind of the big four consulting groups, right? Where they want, or law firms is a huge one where they expect 60, 70, 80 billable hours a week. You can decide to trade some of your well-being to accomplish the goal of becoming a partner, but maybe you want to just go somewhere else. So we look at this as a human factors issue. That's why we try to avoid it. That's why Michael's is talking textbook stuff. Look, I schedule my breaks. I use my vacation. I put limits on things. That is what you have to do to cope with unlimited demands. And those demands will come from family, friends, social engagements, charities you're doing, your education, your job. You have to take care of yourself, and the people around you need to be aware and take care of you. Teammates, I get all the time. BHIS teammates bring to me, CJ, so-and-so is working, he worked all weekend, he worked like 16 hours. That's where we went to this person who kept doing it, and dude, you need to take next week off. Boom, we're disabling your accounts. It's kind of a funny. He's a person who had backdoors. Firing, yeah, you're fired for a week. How about that?
Yeah. Well, thanks, CJ. Yeah, I definitely think, and maybe there's a bigger discussion about policies and things. I know John at least has said on multiple meetings, like, do not work more than 40 hours. Like, he's begging the employees not to. So it's tough. You set a policy of here's what's expected, and people maybe follow it. So I think we kind of address it more on a cultural side about, let's create a culture of take care of yourselves, and that benefits the company and it benefits you. It's mutually beneficial. So
right, it's good in the long run. And like I said, there will be emergencies. So that's our general rule, 40. I like 45. I don't have to commute, so I work a little bit. You'll go over, but again, like I said, there's people here who work way over. Michael said, if you love it, look, if I know people who've worked here 60, 70 hours in a week, and they were not burning out. They were supercharged. They were energized. That's not burnout.
Right.
Burnout is impacting you adversely.
It is a personal thing. So, all right, who else is here? We are kind of running out of time. I guess I talked too much, but if everyone wants to we can just all hop in. Yeah, Jason, everyone hop in. We can just have a quick, if anyone, I know Noah maybe wanted to mention some things, Jason for sure. Also, the best part about Jason is, if you don't like your job, he can find another one for you. How crazy is that? I will say there has been a little discussion about changing jobs may not be always, that might fall into the category of necessary, or it might fall into the category of you are compensating for something that is going to follow you to your next job.
Well, and sometimes that whole onboarding process of getting a new job
is stressful.
Is a burnout incident all in of itself. Like, it is not easy to get spun up.
Yeah.
And I guess one of the things, not to cut you off, Corey, but one of the things that I saw, just like CJ said, is there's the difference between like a hard 40 hours and a soft 40 hours of sorts, where you're spinning around all the time, like scrolling through Facebook, maybe walk to the water cooler and chat with someone for a few, that kind of stuff. Like that's your soft 40 hours, whereas your hard 40 hours, like, I'm in front of my computer, I'm go, I'm getting stuff done. However, I do want to stipulate that hard versus soft line is defined by you as the person doing the work, to an extent. It's not defined by your boss. So when you're looking at Corey, and if I look at Corey and say, like, well, Corey's producing this much work, he's producing this much output, and that is what 40 hours should equal out to, that is wrong. They hired you for 40 hours of your work, not 40 hours, not to produce the same amount of product that Corey can produce in 40 hours. Because your efficiencies may be based somewhere else. You may not have the experience levels. Just because you're looking at your coworkers who may even have the same job title as you, just because they're producing a certain amount, that's not your expectation. You're not expected to produce this much stuff. You're expected to work for 40 hours. If you work over that to get something done, or because it's something you're really enjoying, for me, like, if I'm working on a script or programming something, like, I don't necessarily want to unload all of that logic right there. So I'm going to go spend an extra 30 minutes and do it. But where I try to make that up is I try to come in 30 minutes later the next morning. If as a manager, you get mad at your employees who come in 30 minutes later, if you know they work 30 minutes late the day before, you're a jerk. That's just the only way around that. But
yeah, and it's definitely different on the defense side. I mean, most of us speak from the attacking side, but people were talking about on call and things like that. That can definitely be stressful, and you obviously, no one should ever be on call 24/7, 365. That's totally crazy. That, if that is the case, please, work to change that in your company if you can. But there is a different way to, if you are on call for the weekend, don't work all of Friday and all of Monday. Maybe take a half day on both days because you're going to use that time over the weekend or whatever. But don't just add on call to an already 40-hour a week job. That's crazy. So.
Well, and I do want to mention too with that, like, there are people on this webcast listening to us talk about this right now, and they're like, well, they have the conditions are just right that they can avoid burnout. Like you can talk it away as much as you want, where you can say, well, I'm a special snowflake. My situation is so much different from theirs. And how do I know that you can say this? Is because I've sat on these kind of conferences, like as an attendee, and I've said it. I said, like, well, they don't have to deal with what I have to deal with. They don't have my boss. They don't have my job. I'm the wizard of IT. I'm the only IT guy here, and I'm the only one who knows how to do this. And if I were to go down, the company would just dissolve, like, into nothingness. You know, you don't understand. You can make all the excuses you want. The reality is, one, everyone is replaceable. It sucks. I'm sorry, but also take that as like a grain of salt and a good thing for you, because it's not all on you. It's the company's job to keep the company up and afloat and to prevent them from dissolving into nothingness overnight. If honestly, if you disappear and the company dissolves into nothingness, that's not your fault. That's not
Unless
your
it was
problem.
your company, which it
Unless it was your company.
Right.
But,
But I think that takes what you're talking about, Noah. It takes a lot of, as an employee, it takes self-reflection, right?
Yeah.
You have to actually realize those warning signs. I mean, like the story that Rhino just gave. I mean, I can tell you that's exactly how I was when I started testing for BHIS, because there's so much to know and you want to know it all, and you're drawing on your experiences. But I mean, and it's really exciting when you're doing it. But at the end of the day, if you feel like, you know, you've been beating your head up against the wall, or you've got your head in a vice, you're really not helping yourself over the long run.
So here's something I keyed on that, David. Here's the thing. Who's responsible for this, right? Well, managers, leaders are responsible for their people. In our company, I look at their peers are responsible for that. But if all those people fail, who's going to pay the price? You are. You're going to pay it. So if you don't take ultimate responsibility, I want all those people to help you. You know, that's the whole thing of team. Like, help each other, be better. But if you as an individual, if you're out there in a bad environment or a, you know, ignorant environment, ultimately it comes down to you. You got to say no, and you can't just say no to a boss and get fired. You may need to find another job, but you have to sell. Like, why is this not working? Why am I overloaded? Why is this happening? Engage. You've got to work as a team. That's the only thing things get done in a society like this. You have to work as a group.
Well, I think it's important to have an open environment where you can have those discussions as well. So like you and John, you literally tell everybody, you know, if you're getting to that point, raise the white flag, let somebody know. We'll backfill, we'll find a bench tester, we'll do what we need to do so that you're not feeling like the world is just crashing down on you.
Yeah, and I see a lot of people are like, I can't take vacation, you know, like we were talking about earlier, was that, you know, I'm too important here and things like that. Well, do what you can. Take small breaks. For me, like if I'm in the middle of a project and my mind is just racked, feel burned out, and I can't find a solution to the problem, I take a quick 20-minute walk. I often find my solution while I'm out away from the keyboard, a shower, a thinking shower, I like to call it, just relieve the stress and just get it out of your mind for a head. You'll be amazed at what comes back in when you're refreshed.
And that acts as positive reinforcement too, right? So I love those moments. I'll be like in the middle of a test and something's not working, and I'll go out and do something stupid like weed my garden, and I'm pulling weeds and my hands are just full of dirt, and I'm like, holy crap, that's what I got to do. And you run back in the house, and the more you
it's the same way for me. You get in this like feedback loop where you're like, I have all this work to do, or I have all these problems, and the answer, and you're like, okay, how do I solve the problem? Well, in order to solve the problem, I need to not have problems. Like, but I have so many problems that I can't not have problems. So you get in this feedback loop. What you need to do, break it. Like, go for a walk, go do it, because you'll realize there are other options than like, I need to eliminate all problems.
Right.
Like, I have a lot of problems. How do I fix that? I eliminate problems. That's never going to work. It's circular
Jason,
logic.
would you like to say something, Mr. Jason?
Yeah, sorry.
I would like to say thank you so much for joining us today on the Black Hills Information Security webcast. It is at the 2 o'clock hour, which means if you need to go, you need to head out, you need to get back to work because you took an hour off to do this. Now you feel like you have a lot to get caught up on, or whatever it is. The one thing I do want to say is that we had over 700 people here today. So one, you're not alone. Anyone that shows up to this webcast is like looking for this. And so you are not alone. If you feel like you are, you're not. That's one of the reasons that we bring this community together. We're going to stick around for a couple more minutes for those of us that can. So if you need to head out, we'll see you next time. If you ever need a red team, threat hunt, pen test, active SOC, you know where to find us. All right, so that is the that is the end of the webcast. We're now in after post-show banter. And the one thing I wanted to say is that I've done a good job, and CJ was asking me the other day, he did my performance review. And one of the things that I do is I hire people. Like if I realize I have too much work to do, then I will start like asking to have someone else hired. And I will tell Deb this, and I'll tell Cassie this, is that when they come on board or when they start working, I thank them because everything they're currently doing is something that I was doing myself. And so sometimes it's about asking to hire other people because you can't do it all yourself. And so maybe today's the day where you start putting together a job description for the person that you need to hire to bring onto your team that's going to make you better.
But Jason, you had to sell that, right? Because there's costs and there's benefits and there's time when your company just can't hire another person. And then you have to make a decision. I can't do it all. Again, I just saw so many people. I have to, I'm trying to, I'm like, no, stop that expectation. That is a personal, that's where this is coming from. It's coming from inside you.
Yeah.
I know that everyone has externalities. It's just, that's
you're paying a personal cost for your company's gain. And what should be happening is the company's paying a company cost for company gain. That's how the system's supposed to work.
If it's valuable, it's worth money.
Yes.
Right.
And there's companies that just they don't want to do, like, that's the whole stupid corporate thing. Well, we're doing more with less. Bullshit. You are. Yes, maybe
more efficient.
Efficiency is what I hear that called usually.
There's automation, certainly. We learn how to automate things, and yes, then I guess we are doing. You make incremental things, but that's not what companies are talking about when they're downsizing and whacking people out.
Well, yeah, and you know what I see a lot of people miss out on is delegation. They don't, especially if you're in charge of a project or something like that, don't be afraid to delegate tasks and ask people for help in certain situations, right? If things are overloading for you, just wave your hand and say, hey, this would be great if somebody could come help me do this part of the task, right?
And maybe that person does it faster, better, easier if you don't try to do it all yourself.
Yeah, right.
Smith, specialization, anyone?
I feel like the whole, employers, in Infosec, if your strategy is to burn out your employees and cause personal loss for people and for corporate gain, you will find yourself unable to hire anyone eventually. You will
they will talk.
People, it's a very small community and people talk. And if truthfully, you will burn through the target market for your job eventually. And you can't, you will reach a point because of the issues with, the number of resources we have. As the employees, we are in a position of power of being able to say, I won't work for a company that burns me out, which means there is a list of companies I wouldn't work for. And that list gets around and it becomes kind of a standard thing. And that is very harmful to the company over time, right? If you're
There's long-term focus and short-term focus, right? Those companies are making a great short-term profit. Sometimes in the stock market, that creates fabulous results. And the board of directors and the stockholders are really making out. That's one of the things that we argue for smaller companies. BHIS doesn't have stockholders. We consider our employees the stockholders. We're running this for the benefit of our customers and our people. And that just creates, and sometimes you're just going to have to get out. Sometimes you'll pay that price of what you're talking about, Corey, because, hey, I'm new to the industry. I got to go pay my dues and get some experience to get out of this.
Right. But long term, you're going to burn everyone out. And there's just, it's also become sort of a reputational thing. Like we do all talk about, like, at this point, personally, I probably wouldn't work for a shop that I didn't know someone that I could talk to and say, how is it really? How is the workload? How is the and I would happily give that information to anyone asking about BHIS. I would be realistic, and I think anyone that I know in the industry would happily answer that question, be it good or bad, right? And so, and I do think that, like, so from a company perspective, even if you are a stockholder, even if you are a shareholder, and I think, I mean, we've seen this. Look at Kellogg's, or look at current nursing stuff. It's like, if you have, people will go on strike. People, like, we've never had an Infosec strike, but like people, at least that I know of, if you did, like, whatever. But yeah, I mean, people will get to the point where, like, and guess what? They got what they wanted. The workers got what they wanted, because it was either we can't make the thing anymore, or we have to make some concessions, right? Like, there isn't it there you cap, it does get to that point where it's like, we have to stop this policy to make it so we can actually hire people. And we are the engine. The employees are the engine. And without an engine, it doesn't move. So
yeah, and I will say that there is a very real term of disposable employees, and think of them like paper plates. That's how they approach them. And the way you can identify jobs hiring disposable employees is they're never willing to train you. When you're applying, when you're talking to them, they're not willing to train you. They expect you to come in and be able to do the job in its entirety the day you get in. They're going to get you your access to their cloud solutions, and they expect you to just be able to do it. And their goal is to maximize and work you as hard as they can until you burn out, and then they're going to unload you and get another one. And some people, and you don't realize what's happening because they just like hurriedly don't look at the man behind the curtain. They just rush you through the hallway, and then, like, here's your desk, and they sit you down, and they got these big blinders set up so you can't see what's going on. And the whole thing is to keep you off guard. It's a very real type of position, and you just got to watch for that. Usually you can see it in the interview process. However, unfortunately, the easiest way to be able to identify that in the interview process is you had to get sucked into one at some point and be able to identify it from hindsight. So I'm telling you now, learn from my hindsight. Look for jobs where they're like hurtling you down this narrow corridor, and they're like, nope, don't look to your left, don't look to your right. Like, we need you to start day one. And yeah, no training opportunity. When I first came in, it was like a month and a half of training.
Right.
Yeah, don't just ask about the job, ask about the culture as well when you're doing that. Excuse me, when you're doing the interview process. Maybe even ask, hey, can you get the team on the call? Maybe another call. Maybe I can ask some questions to the team members, things like that, and get a good feeling about how the culture is before you go in.
So that's how we end every interview, right? Do you have questions for us? If you don't have questions for, like, you're interviewing for the job, right? Like, don't you want to know some things? Like, it's almost like half the interview should be the other way around, right?
Yeah, because it should be a two-way relationship.
Yeah, before I came to BHIS, I called Derek, Joff, and Bo, and I was like, how is it really? Like, what's one thing you love? What's one thing you don't love? And they told me, and so I was able to use that in my decision-making process to join BHIS.
Wow.
So much to say, Corey. You had
I guess we have to do another burnout webcast.
Part 2.
Burnout webcast part 2.
I'm getting asked to do one on people were complaining about the CISSP and certs. I think maybe we should do one on getting certs.
Yeah, and I will say, like, we're not just here to complain. We're here mostly just to start the conversation and to acknowledge that, like Jason said, there's 700 other people potentially that are having the same problem as you. You're not alone. We're all in this. We're all in the same boat. We're all, like, we pretend like we're all fine, but really, at the end of the day, you have to, like, even like Rhino said, I'm proud to say that I've never let my burnout lead to me getting fired or quitting a job or missing a project or whatever. But on some level, that sort of shows that, like, the system is built, to make me push, to make me make that work. So, we have to sort of change our perspective and say, like, really, the company should be proud that they would never put me in that position, right? Like, and that is how it feels here, and that is, I think, how it should be. I think the company should pride themselves on retention and there are legitimately corporate metrics, even HR teams around in the corporate world, there are HR teams that focus on, like, retention, burnout. Like, there are scientific articles and books and things like that. Like, it is an issue. It's just, at the end of the day, when the money man comes asking, you have to make the right numbers appear in the spreadsheet. So It is.
Well, that could also be a metric you ask for, right? What is your turnover rate at the company right now?
Right.
How many employees are you going through at a time? It might be a signal. You'd have to look elsewhere, or maybe it's a good signal. They don't have turnover, right?
Yeah, and you have to, you have to compare it. Like I think in InfoSec, there is a certain amount of just turnover
It's
due
gonna
to
happen, yeah.
because of the shiny object thing, right? Because of being like, hey, there's a cool thing that I want to pursue. It's pretty, it's pretty amazing. I'm going to go over to this other shop, and then it doesn't work out. It's not. I think it's rare to see a 10-year, 20-year at one company. I mean, it does happen, but
yeah, and I think the ability to advance your career is kind of like that shiny object. Oh, if I go over here, I'm going to be promoted or make more money or whatever, and then I'm going to use that experience to then move to somewhere else. And I know I've been guilty of it in the past, and that's kind of like some of that introspect, right? Learn from yourself and learn what your baseline is and what you can put up with and things like that. Where it might be, hey, maybe I just need to look at myself and figure out what I can do with the company I'm with to stay here longer and to help
make small changes. I think throwing up the white flag and switching jobs is in general not, unless there are just things that are totally out of your control. I think in general that is the wrong move, because there's burnout from just moving itself. There is that little bump of like, things are new, so they don't feel like they're burning me out, but you're going to be back where you started in 6 months. And I think we have to think longer term and think like, unless it is like, there are situations like, those factory employees, literally it's like, we will fire you if you don't come in on Monday. I think there's very few people in InfoSec who are in that boat though. There's very few people who are actually on that knife edge. So
if I don't show up for Monday's meeting though, CJ might come knocking at my door.
The ROE, yeah, you're going to be in trouble.
All right, so we're going to wrap up today. The one thing, I do know someone very close to me who was burned out and they didn't realize it. And so you may not realize it. Maybe today is the day that you actually realized it. Is that sometimes there's that whole thing of like, I don't know I'm in a situation until I realize that I'm in the situation, or I don't know I'm in that situation until I'm in a new situation where I can look back and like, oh my, I can't believe I did that, because it was exciting, it was adrenaline filled, it was this, it was that, it was full of accolades or whatever it was, but it was also killing you at the same time. So you never know until you actually get a chance to do that introspection thing that Corey, the baseline, I think was the best part of today for me personally. Was just like, what is my baseline? So that way I know if I'm out or below or beneath it. So thank you all for being here today. Thank you for attending. Hopefully if this was something that you think someone else could benefit from, you can share the recording with them. And with that, that's it for today. Thanks everybody. We'll see you on the next BHIS webcast.
Wait, I have to answer one last question.
Go.
Okay, I'm good. Go ahead, you can end it now.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jason.
Actually, before we go, Corey, any last words?
Nope. Thanks for attending. Stay safe.
All right. I am ending the webinar. Bye.